he now expands the nature of development and our understanding of it beyond individual and community to the global relationships and the myth of development. What becomes deeply clear, and it's so insightful what he's writing, is that most of the times development is seen as material development, roads, infrastructure, right? And those are the indices that are reported in The Economist and elsewhere. But what he's saying is that that is not the measure of the transformation and development of any given society. Because most of the times these changes are happening at the behest of powers that be. They have reached a certain threshold. They need to at least point out that there is some reform going on to negotiate a new hegemonic order. Now, the true development would be in which the people of a given peripheral territory decide for themselves what is it that they want, how would they achieve it, and when what is being reformed and developed is in their best interest and builds up their societies. Now, what Freire is highlighting is how the international powers, even now through a local elite whose interests are governed by the dominant metropolitan powers, right? How do they create an illusion of development? And even when that development happens, people's lives do not change. And people's lives do not change because the development is still being done in the best interests of the metropolitan power. So think of all the countries right now, including Pakistan, that are performing or introducing reforms to match the IMF demands. Now, IMF, if you've watched any of my lectures on it, is an imperial institution. They are beholden to their shareholders, and those are the powerful nations who give them the funding. So anytime they come in and want a government to introduce reform, that reform is neither asked by the people nor is something that's there to take care of them. The purpose of that reform is to make sure that that nation remains stabilized so that IMF's investment is not lost. Now, the idea is that, yeah, if the country follows IMF's mandate, their lives will improve too. But since it is an outside institution trying to impose reform on a different society, and since they have their own interest in it, it is not true development or reform. So by the end of this passage, where he's concluding his discussion, right, of cultural invasion and the four anti-dialogical concepts, there is a cautionary note, right? There is a cautionary note for the leaders of the movement, right? That if they are going to bring change and talk about reform and development, it has to be from the point of their own society as a being for itself, and not a society that exists for the interest of another, for the interest of the global dominant forces. That's where he leaves us, with a cautionary note for revolutionary leadership, right? And from here, he will go on to then give us four concepts and practices that he considers instrumental and necessary for dialogical mode of thinking and dialogical action.